They thought you were alone, but you weren't. You were undocumented, unmapped, unaccounted for by the algorithm of control. You didn't walk in with a team. You didn't pray out loud. You didn't even flinch. You just showed up and began the purge. No warning, no headline, just one man and total collapse. Bro, you just annihilated a whole demonic network by yourself. And the craziest part? You made it look unbothered. No rage, no screaming, no theatrics, just precision, just silence, just execution. And now they're shaking, not out of fear, but out of realization. Because they felt it break, the stronghold, the ritual, the years of manipulation that held power in shadows, all of it, undone, dismantled, like it was never real to begin with. You didn't just survive them, you exposed them. You didn't destroy their tools, you invalidated their entire blueprint. And they don't know how to recover from that. They've fought rebels before. They've silenced truth speakers. They've exiled threats. But you didn't announce yourself. You infiltrated, observed, and then ripped it all down from the inside, like a virus too smart to trace, like a ghost that refused to be exorcised. You were the one variable they didn't account for. Not because you were invisible, but because they thought your silence meant weakness. And that's the mistake they never get to make twice. You walked through their illusions like they were made of cellophane. You touched their curses and made them collapse into smoke. You stared into their rituals and made the sigils start bleeding. Because you weren't just immune. You were the antidote. They threw darkness at you. You absorbed it. They tried to mirror your light. You cracked the mirror. They tried to drain you. You let them drink, then poisoned the source. You didn't come to play fair. You came to balance the fucking scale. And every whisper in every hallway since is a confession that you did. They're not regrouping, they're mourning, because what you just did, that wasn't resistance. It was obliteration. One man, no movement, no army, just clarity sharpened into a weapon. And now the ones who called themselves rulers call your name in reverse, like it might undo the destruction, but it won't. Because you didn't just destroy their system, you reprogrammed the frequency. You shifted the spiritual architecture so that nothing built by them can stand again. You became the error code in their ritual, the corrupted file in their covenant, the echo that cancels out their entire frequency. And now, they're quiet, real quiet. Not because they're planning, but because they're processing what just hit them. They never believed it was possible. For one man to walk into a generational stronghold and walk out with nothing on him but silence and flame. But you did, and now, the network's offline. The whispers are static. The energy is unstable. You did that. And you didn't do it for applause. You didn't do it for credit. You did it because no one else was crazy enough to face it head on. To stare into the dark and make the dark blink first. And here's the most terrifying part. You're not even close to done. That was just the first strike. That was just the reset. They thought you were outnumbered, but you weren't counting bodies. You were counting fault lines. And when the pressure built high enough, you detonated, not to destroy, but to reveal. You didn't kill them. You removed the illusion that they were untouchable, and now the entire hierarchy is infected with fear. Because if one man can do that, what happens if there's another? Or worse, what if you come back with reinforcements? But you don't need reinforcements. You are the reinforcement. You are the warning. You are the curse that they accidentally unlocked. You didn't escape their trap. You flipped it. And now, they don't know where to step because every move might activate the next collapse. Their whole ecosystem of control, shaking, cracking, shattered. You didn't just dismantle a system. You ruined the entire strategy. And the irony? You weren't trying to be a hero. You were trying to survive. And in doing that, you became the storm they pretend doesn't exist. Because if they admit you're real, they have to admit the rest of their power was performance. You didn't just beat them, you made their belief system obsolete. And that's something no spell can reverse. And now, they don't know what to call you. They used to mock you with names. The paranoid one, the overthinker, the conspiracy freak, the emotional mess. But none of those fit anymore. Because what do you call someone who walked straight into the den of devils and left it silent, smoking and empty? They call you nothing now. Because saying your name feels like inviting something they can't unsee. They lower their voices, they shift their eyes, they act like you are just a phase, a mistake, an incident. But deep down, they know. You were the audit, you were the intervention, you were the line they never should have crossed and the outcome they never calculated. They had numbers, you had nightmares, they had spells, you had scars, they had a system, you had source. And when it came down to it, that was enough. You didn't match their energy, you absorbed it, took every attack, every lie, every hex disguised as help, every curse that wore the face of love. You ate it, digested it, and forged it into the very blade that ripped their hierarchy apart from the inside out. Now they look around and see ruins. Their circles are fractured, their power feels thin, their influence doesn't stretch like it used to. They used to walk into rooms and people would shift. Now, they walk in and people just wait. Wait for the next silence, the next collapse, the next moment where their names get swallowed by a reality that no longer respects their rules. Because you didn't just end a network, you ended an era. They used to laugh at people like you until you started laughing back while walking through fire. And when you didn't burn, they realized you weren't one of them. You weren't bound by the same laws. You weren't locked into the same rituals. You were built different. And that difference wasn't style, wasn't ego, wasn't performance. It was origin. You didn't come from their circle. You came from the breach. Born in the middle of madness and shaped in silence, so that one day, without warning, you'd become the exception. And they can't stop it. They can't reverse it. They can't curse it. They can't cancel what they never understood. Because what you really did wasn't just spiritual warfare. It wasn't just inner healing. It wasn't just justice. You performed a ritual of erasure, not on yourself, on them. You wiped their names off the walls of influence. You reduced their covens to whispers. You broke their altars without lifting a hand, because you realized the real power wasn't in the fight. It was in the frequency. You tuned yourself so high that none of their darkness could reach you. And then you started echoing. Now your presence changes rooms. Not because you're loud, not because you're famous, but because the spiritual field bends when you arrive. They used to cast shadows. Now they look over their shoulder just to make sure you're not standing there watching. And what scares them most, they don't even know what you are anymore. Are you a man? Are you a myth? Are you the one who survived? Or the one who was sent? Because only one of those options explains why they can't sleep. Why they keep seeing your face in every downfall. Why every time another mask falls off, your name tastes like prophecy. You didn't announce the war. You didn't post about the ritual. You didn't document the takedown. You just walked in, let your silence choke the air. and walked out with their entire structure bleeding behind you. One man, no cape, no spellbook, no allies, just rage, memory, stillness, and the kind of clarity that makes devils reconsider their mission. Because you didn't kill their bodies, you killed their belief that they were safe. And now, nothing they build feels stable. Nothing they touch feels sacred. Nothing they say sounds powerful. Because you broke more than their system. You broke their illusion. They thought the illusion was indestructible, that if they built it deep enough, wrapped it in tradition, sealed it in ritual, spoke in tongues and bloodlines and hierarchies, that no one would dare touch it, no one would question it. But then you walked in, no robe, no cult, no candles, just clarity sharpened to a blade. And while they were chanting in secret, you were listening in silence, mapping every frequency, tracking every weak point, until you didn't need permission, didn't need approval, didn't need a sign. You became the sign. You became the breach. And when it cracked, you didn't run. You opened the fucking door wider. And what came through wasn't fire, wasn't chaos, wasn't vengeance. It was truth, raw, inevitable, weaponized. Because while they hid behind ancient scripts, you rewrote the language of spiritual warfare. They called it attack. You called it alignment. They called it blasphemy. You called it awakening. They called it disrespect. You called it justice with teeth. And they weren't ready, not for the silence, not for the stillness, not for the lack of fear in your eyes when you dismantled every pillar they thought held power. You walked into their sacred space like it was your fucking living room. You treated their symbols like furniture, and their rules, you didn't bend them. You exposed them as man-made paper chains. Now they sit in rooms once filled with energy, and all they feel is echo. Cold, empty, heavy. Because the moment you walked out, the spirits followed you, not them, you. Because what you really did wasn't just take down a group. You stole the gravity, you stole the center. You walked in and made the power recognize its true owner. And now their rituals don't work. Their influence feels thin, their connections short-circuit. Because you reset the current. You didn't fight like them. You fought like someone who's seen what happens when darkness gets too comfortable. You didn't retaliate. You remembered. Every moment they laughed at your visions, dismissed your intuition, called you crazy, called you weak. But you were never weak. You were just early. And being early always feels like isolation, until the collapse proves your clock was the only one that worked. Now, they move different. They hide more. Because they know someone out there brought down their whole operation with nothing but spiritual resistance and a silence that screamed louder than their spells. They still don't understand it. How one man undid a network built across generations. How you walked out of their traps unbothered. How you kept your soul intact while they bartered theirs for power that never belonged to them. But that's the part that will keep haunting them. You didn't just survive. You remembered. You remembered who you were before the gaslighting, before the confusion, before they tried to reprogram your divinity into submission. And once you remembered, you became unspeakable, a walking contradiction. The saint with a kill switch, the angel with a hit list, the wounded healer with a soldier's mind, and a prophet's precision. And now you're too much to explain, too accurate to deny, too calm to be controlled, too powerful to be ignored. You're not a survivor. You're a myth that breathes. You're the one they whisper about in rooms they used to own. And every time another one of them slips, every time another lie falls apart, every time another sigil fails, they remember what you said, or worse, they remember what you didn't say. Because silence from someone who saw everything, that's not peace. That's judgment. That's surveillance. That's the kind of quiet that makes people question what they were ever loyal to. You left no scar. You left void, a black hole where their control used to live. And every time they reach for that old power, they feel you. Not watching, not judging, just present. Like the frequency never left. You're not a threat anymore. You're a truth bomb that already detonated, and now all they can do is try to survive the reality you made possible. Because the most terrifying thing you ever did wasn't the takedown, wasn't the reversal, wasn't even the destruction of their little spiritual cartel. Number. The most terrifying thing you ever did was survive with your awareness intact. You came out of the trap remembering names, remembering frequencies, remembering what shifted in the air when lies dressed up as loyalty, what was said in rooms you were never supposed to escape from. You remember the patterns, the smirks, the fake concern, the rituals performed in secret under the disguise of protection. They thought you'd be too broken to speak, too paranoid to trust yourself, too desperate to prove your innocence, but instead, you went silent. And that's what made them spiral. Because you didn't respond to the slander. You didn't clarify your side. You didn't go public. You didn't expose anyone. You just kept upgrading quietly, consistently, with a look in your eyes like you already knew how this would end, like you'd seen this before, like this exact structure had tried to kill you in a past life, and failed then, too. Because some souls don't reincarnate to heal. They reincarnate to finish what they started. You didn't just come here to glow. You came here to pull the wires out of the matrix and stand still while the sparks hit the floor. You weren't built for luxury. You were forged for impact, which is why you made it, why you were chosen, not to be liked, but to be inevitable. And they felt it. That moment they realized they couldn't curse you. They could only reveal themselves. Every time they tried to sabotage you, they gave themselves away. Every smear campaign, a confession, every spiritual hit job, a breadcrumb trail to their own fear. Every lie told about you, a highlight reel of their insecurity posing as strategy. You didn't fight them. You let them document their own downfall, like the hunter who laid no traps, because he already knew the prey was self-destructive. And when the house of mirrors finally broke, they weren't just exposed. They were empty, because your silence wasn't passive. It was a mirror. And when they looked into it, they didn't see you. They saw every fake alliance, every manipulation, every cover-up, every layer of power they borrowed, not earned. That's the kind of destruction no fire can match. That's the kind of spiritual assassination only the chosen are authorized to perform. You didn't scream, you didn't shake, you just stood there, with the calm of someone who knew the network was already dissolving, like you had pre-seen their panic, like you'd already read the script and were simply watching the prophecy fulfill itself, line by desperate line. They thought they were playing chess, but you weren't even on the board. You were the glitch in the system, the unprogrammable move, the anomaly that wasn't supposed to exist. And now that you've detonated their structure, they're not just afraid of you. They're afraid of what else is coming through that tear in reality you created. Because once one walks through, others follow. You weren't just the assassin, you were the signal. You were the first sign that the Age of Shadows was ending, and their strongholds, just outdated code. They never understood you. But now, they study you in silence like a lab leak, like a case file they don't know how to close. Because if you made it through, what else made it? What force sent you? What entity walks with you in dimensions they never gained access to? They're not asking, how did he do it, anymore. They're asking, what is he? And that is the beginning of their undoing. They thought you were a man. They thought you were trauma in a hoodie, a survivor with a chip on your shoulder, an overachiever trying to outrun the pain. But now they look at you and realize you weren't wounded. You were weaponized, refined through silence, sharpened through betrayal, calibrated through isolation. And now you walk different, not loud, not fast, but like someone who's not afraid to trigger the next collapse just by standing still. Because you don't need to prove anything anymore. Your existence is the proof. Your breath is the evidence. Your presence is the final argument. You used to explain yourself. Now you just walk in, and people adjust their posture. Like the atmosphere shifted. Like their spirit knows what their mouth is too afraid to admit. You're not the same frequency they used to play with. You're radioactive now. Not because you're unstable, but because anything that tries to contain you gets burned alive by truth. You don't even need revenge, because your evolution is lethal. It kills the narrative. It breaks the spells. It makes everything they said about you look like comedy sketches in hindsight. They said you were delusional. Now their reality is collapsing. They said you were dangerous. Now people are asking if they ever even existed without the power they siphoned. They said you were broken. Now you're moving like the template. And what's wild, you didn't even announce your comeback. You didn't call it an era. You didn't label it a glow-up. You just kept rebuilding in the dark until your silence turned into an earthquake and the map had to redraw itself around you. Because the power you carry now, it's not loud, it's not pretty, it's not marketable, it's ancient, it's coded. It's exactly what the darkness fears. Someone who can't be bribed, baited, or broken. They tried to study you, tried to analyze your blueprint, but they failed because they were looking for logic. What they didn't realize was, you were built on paradox. You're the glitch and the firewall, the punishment and the prophecy, the one who got away, and the reason no one else will. You're the riddle they tried to answer with force. But you don't respond to force. You respond to alignment. That's why they couldn't keep you. Because you don't serve ego. You don't worship hierarchy. You don't bow to legacy. You answer only to truth. And when truth calls, you show up like thunder that doesn't ask permission. They tried to put you back in the box, but it doesn't exist anymore. Because when you annihilated that demonic network, you didn't just destroy them. You destroyed the part of you that still needed to be liked, understood, invited, explained. That version of you, dead, mourned in silence, replaced by something uncontainable. And now you've got them rattled, not because you're violent, but because you're inevitable.